In my plumber headcanon, maybe he travels through the different dimensions using the sewers,
That would be interesting.
and it's powered by sewer crystals.
Yeah. Yeah, that is... Seriously, you just keep giving me the gold for fanfiction.
Hey, you know what? I'll read it when you write it.
Yeah, okay. Sure. It'll be 2 words long. No, it'll be 2... I'll make it at least a page. I'll make it interesting. And then others will continue the grand work.
Yes, exactly.
Seriously, okay, let me... Excuse me for a second while I just address this. Everyone in the comments, write this now. Write your own fanfiction for Mike right now. Go.
Teal's calling
You're welcome.
for fanfiction, Mary.
You're welcome. So, in about a week's time...
What have you done, Teal?
Like, a week after this is up, look at the comments and see what they're like. Or there will be nothing. One of the two.
Whenever a movie comes out, I always like to go to fanfiction.net and see which characters have the most romance fanfiction written for each other, like who the fans most want to get together.
I would like to get together with Alaris. I mean, what?
We try to predict it usually but I haven't done that for any of the Ratchet games yet, and I don't think I'm going to for some reason.
I really like Alaris in a weird, I'm attracted to her kind of way. I don't know why, but Alaris was super awesome.
She's a great character. I love Alaris.
I want her back. She was great.
After the Clank / Optimus Prime fan fiction that someone sent to me back in 2006, I stopped reading Ratchet fan fiction altogether.
That's amazing.
It was amazing is a word that I suppose you could apply to it. It was
the word you're looking for is
unique,
awful.
unique also. No, you know what? The writing was fine.
Okay.
Just I found the concept very difficult to wrap my brain around.
I see. Fantastic.
Just the size difference, for one, was difficult to understand.
That is brilliant. That is brilliant. Yeah, no, I didn't actually realise Alaris was Rosario Dawson. I was like trying to work out who she was, and I was like, wait, who? And then after I found out, I was like, Rosario Dawson, the name rings a bell. And I was like, oh, Daredevil, you're the nurse in Daredevil. Yes, awesome.
Yes. I was wondering which Rosario Dawson you'd pick. So I would go with Clerks 2 if I were mentioning it.
Right.
That's just because that's when I realized.
I've mainly seen her in like pretty much only that. I'm sure I've seen her in other things, but I recognise her from that.
She was pretty great in Daredevil. She was good in Sin City too.
Oh, I haven't. Yeah, I haven't seen that in years.
She was the. Do you remember like there were like the prostitutes who had a gang? She was the leader of that gang.
Okay. Yeah, that was a good film. I need to see it again.
I like the original one. Yeah. Although it was definitely. Yeah, the second one wasn't as good. The first film was made for a very specific time and place, I think.
Mm.
Like, when that film came out, the world was not the same world it is now.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
So watching it now, I still like it, but it's not the sort of movie I would like if it came out today. And I think that was a big problem Sin City had, is they didn't update it.
Right.
Like, Ratchet 1 was made for a very different time and place, and a very different gamer, right? It was made for you, actually.
Yeah.
And now this game is made, partially for you and partially for whoever's 9 years old right now.
Yeah.
And it's a very different, time and place. And games are a very different thing. And I thought it was cool that they were able to reproduce how it felt to play that original game without needing to limit themselves to what we were limited to by the time, place, and technology.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, I love the twist at the end of the game that I don't think you've gotten to in this playthrough yet, so I don't want to spoil for people.
When you say without twist.
Man.
Oh, yes. Sorry,
Yeah.
I was just like, wait, what twist? Yes.
That twist. I am 3 thumbs up for that twist.
Yeah, there were man. Have you seen the comments on the 100% playthrough of that? It's so split.
Yeah.
Some people hate it,
No,
and I couldn't love it more.
I've gotten a little bit, but Insomniac has gotten a lot of people asking why they couldn't fight Drek.
Why the hell not though? Like, it doesn't matter. I get the point. I get the idea. Like, I do see the reason for it, but you know what? It's awesome anyway. It works.
Yeah,
Like,
and it's
and
you
it's
know,
a
I don't
better
think there was
plot
another.
twist.
I don't think there was another way they could have. Yeah, there wasn't really a plot twist in the first one. I don't think there was a better way they could have put Nefarious as the villain. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think they really did because he is the best Ratchet.
Yeah, undoubtedly.
Yeah, I mean Drek is great, and I like the original take on Drek. I like this take on Drek, and in my mind they both exist because remember the dimensions thing.
Yeah, of course.
So you know,
I'm nearly
making
dead.
making this one doesn't really take anything away from me from the other ones. But again, as a developer, I think I don't have the same connection to it as someone who remembers this from when they were a kid.
Yeah, it's interesting because like the Drek is very different, but I like the motives he has in the movies. I'm gonna say movie as opposed to game because you don't really hear it in the game.
Yeah.
The game is very bare bones of what the movie is. It's like a shell, I guess, of it. In terms of plot.
Since it's different than the movie because it's Qwark's version.
Yeah, that is also true.
But I can see why they do it that way too. If the movie was being developed alongside the game, right? Like the movie's going to be changing to make it work, and the game's going to be changing to make it work. So they needed them to be linked. I thought linking them with Captain Qwark was actually a pretty clever way.
Do you know what? I've changed my mind for the Snow Beast Award. I would actually have the mouth movements in the cutscenes.
Oh, those are the
They are really quite bad.
So those are the procedural cutscenes.
Yes,
those aren't animated.
Yeah, no, they are pretty bad.
Yeah, they're
like
they're like
there's no emotion and they kind of like glitch out a lot. I don't really know why that is when the rest of the game looks so perfect.
It's because they're not actually animated.
Yeah, but like still, like it's just there's no way to fix it. Like
not with the time and money they had.
Yeah,
no.
fair enough.
The thing is I'll bet you they would have rather been able to, but like that's I can just imagine how much time that would take. It'd be a lot.
Yeah, I guess.
And remember, originally this game was a straight up remake. Like it was with smaller differences, right?
Really? So it was going to be a 100% remake.
Well, what they've said, and again, I only know from what they've said, but they said originally they were trying to make a remake, and then Insomniac, like it does, got carried away, and everyone loved the results, so they decided to give it extra time.
I see. So is that why it didn't come out last year?
Probably, right? Yeah.
But
I mean,
I thought it was because the movie wasn't ready.
Well, when I was starting to work on it, it was supposed to come out that year, right? So it got extra time between when I worked on it and when it got extended. And I was really happy that it got extended because I know they had a lot of plans they wanted to do that they wouldn't have been able to do if it was just a remake.
Right.
And we were able to do a few more things with a few more crazy things with the new stuff we were adding. But that extra time, I don't think would have been enough time to do as much animation as the game would have taken, because they did they actually animated a bunch of cutscenes that weren't in the movie.
Right. Yeah.
Just not every single one. And usually the ones that are with interactable NPCs, like even in the Future series, they were done this way. It was all procedural animation. It wasn't done like a human being didn't do the lip syncing or the expressions or decide which, sort of what goes on, except in the most general sort of way.
Right.
Right. Like Ratchet has 3 or 4 facial expressions. He's got a certain number of shapes his mouth can be in. His head automatically tracks the person who's talking, and like the mouth flap is actually based on the audio that he's speaking, so it should be correct for each language. Stuff like that, right?
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, those are much easier and much cheaper to produce than an actual full.
Yeah.
Right. Those things cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars per second.
Right.
Like so it's very difficult, and with that extra time that they got, I'm certain they wouldn't have had not just enough money, but enough people hours in the day to animate as much stuff as this game required.
Right.
So while I agree that those parts they didn't look as good, I'm pretty sure there wasn't another way they could have shipped the game at the quality level they did.
That's fair.
And it's always like that. There's always some sort of a trade-off you're making.
Yeah.
And even when you're at the developer, you don't like having to make that trade-off.
Okay. So
because you want it to be perfect, but I thought You know, it wasn't as good looking as the great looking animation that was right next to it, but I thought it was actually better than most procedural animation. Like if you look at the Star Wars MMO, they do it a lot, and it's much more obviously done. You know, the camera is chosen, you know, based on to face who's talking and stuff like that. Like it's a system. It's more like a gameplay system than it is like a movie.
Yeah.
So it's kind of actually an impressive piece of technology, but I agree with you that it doesn't look as good, and I wish they'd been able to do the full thing.
I can't remember who said it, if it was GameSpot or IGN in their review of the movie, but they said the animation didn't look that good. Like, what?
Really? I liked it. I thought it looked
really gorgeous.
Good. I thought that really wasn't one of the problems with the movie. Like, it was gorgeous, and the animation style was really spot on for the Ratchet animation style too.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
If I would have faulted anything, I think it's just so when you make an animated movie, you come up with all of the footage, and then you have to cut together a movie out of it. And you can't go back and reanimate stuff because it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars per second.
Yeah.
So what you do when you make an animated movie is you animate the storyboards you have, then you try to edit a good movie out of it. I think they probably edited the best movie they could out of the original footage that they made, right? So I'm guessing that's the reason why it feels like the pacing feels a little weird and some of the jokes drop, is because they couldn't necessarily go back and revisit those as much as they wanted to.
Right.
And I'm guessing the movie probably did get extra time. I have no way of knowing. But since it got delayed, I mean, that by definition is the fact that it got extra time.
Yeah. So, answer me this. If the game was originally going to be a pretty much like-for-like remake, with obviously updated graphics and whatnot, does that mean that stuff like Otanis and the space station and Orkson was going to be in the game?
There was going to be probably more of that. I don't know what their actual plans were. But I know they were going to do a few new things, but not nearly as much as what this game ended up being.
Right.
Like, I think they knew they wanted to use the jetpack to do mining, for example.
Yeah, like the jetpack from Nexus was just amazing. You can't not bring that back.
So it
does control fantastically, and I'm getting used to it now, so that's nice.
Yeah.
The biggest problem is the fact that I'm getting hit, which is very worrying when we think about the final boss.
Oh gosh, yeah, you're gonna have to keep practicing this.
I have to do that without dying.
Yep.
There's no health upgrades. There might be a small section of nanotech on each platform, but that's what, 50 health per platform? That's not enough. That's 200.
No, it really isn't. That's why I kept jumping into the lava. But you can't do that because it'll reset the health points.
It will, yes.
Yep. Oh man, and there's some of the continue points were in places that would make sense if you weren't trying to game the system by jumping into the lava.
Yeah.
But would make it harder to trek back.
Oh man. I
really like the upgrade system in this game.
Yeah, the Raritanium upgrades.
The sort of improved Nexus, which was an improved Tools of Destruction, like this. The Hex upgrade system with the Raritanium is my favorite that we've ever done, ever.
Yeah, it is fantastic.
It makes me so. Most people, when they play the game, as soon as they upgrade a weapon, they want to switch to a new one so they can upgrade it. I can't play it that way because I'm a developer. Because I don't value in-game currency or rewards because I made them. Right. So my value is in trying to get through the game as quickly as possible to make it more difficult for me. It's kind of a different thing, right? So when... Oh man, I lost my train of thought. Can you just tell me what I was just saying?
You don't value currency, you don't switch between weapons.
Right, so I don't try to upgrade all the weapons because during the course of playing the game, not only have I upgraded them 1,000 times already, I also had a cheat menu at my fingertips that could upgrade them fully whenever I wanted to. So I couldn't value them, right?
Right, I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
Like with Skylanders, I can't value in-game currency because I have as much of it as I want. You know? Yeah. So I have to play it differently in order to get my juice in the game. But the Raritanium upgrade system, no matter how many times, I want. that.
Yeah, that is
Like
is pretty
it
great.
gets its meat hooks into me really good, and probably because I didn't design it.
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
Yeah, right. I didn't work on Tools of Destruction almost at all, so that was sort of my first Ratchet game, being able to play it like a player.
Mm. Yeah, no, the Raritanium system is fantastic. And, I mean, much better usage for Raritanium as opposed to, buying ship upgrades and stuff back in the originals. Or,
Yeah.
well, yeah, it was just ship upgrades. But, yeah, no,
it's
a
really
great
gratifying
system.
how much people like things in this game, and so I'm just really happy that it got good reviews. And I mean, if you account for review deflation, it's actually higher rated than the original.
Oh, really?
It actually,
Wait,
if you
there's a
account for
review
review
deflation
deflation. Yeah, since 2002, review scores have gone down by an average of 10 points across the board.
Really?
It's not anyone's fault. It's just that because there are more people reviewing things, more of the spectrum is getting used.
Wow, I did not know that.
So mostly in the early days, like when I was working, because there were only so many magazines that were doing it, when you aggregated all the scores, there were a bunch of outlets that really only ever used 6 to 10.
Right.
And that would rate that, and now that's still the case, right? IGN very rarely gives things under a 7, but
oh, I don't know about that.
but there are, unless it has severe technical problems and other things, they generally don't, right? It has to be very bad for them to do that.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. I'd say under 8 is a very common place for them. Like Pokemon Alpha Sapphire, Omega Ruby, they gave it a 7.8 because of quote unquote too much water. And the original Sapphire Ruby had the same water, and yet they gave it a 9. Like, but the thing is, the water in this game, I kid you not, and I know this because I've been Let's Playing it recently and tested it, the water is not only smaller than the original, but you move twice as fast. And to get from one body to the other, it takes literally 20 seconds. So I don't know what their deal is when it's faster than walking and using a bike. Like, it makes no sense. It pisses me off. It pissed a lot of people. That became a meme. 7.8, too much water.
So besides mocking IGN, which I know is really easy to do.
Yeah, I love the
like
ignorant IGN.
I've heard that before. But the just going back to the review score thing.
Yeah, sorry.
They did really only use I saw a lot of charts back in the day that charted out they took all of the reviews on a site so they could see how far that site leaned to different numbers.
Right, okay.
And IGN did lean that way. And that actually made a huge difference because IGN was one of like 20 or 30 outlets as opposed to 2,000 or 3,000.
Yeah, that's
or
really
100.
Interesting. That's really, interesting.
So an 86 now is like a 96 back then.
Right, that's really interesting. So what is the overall consensus for the game? What's like the overall score?
It seems to be going somewhere between 86 and 87.
That's
which
fantastic.
And I think the original Ratchet was a 93, 92, and the highest rated Ratchet is a 96, which is Ratchet 3.
That was 96, really?
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me because it's my favorite.
Game
personally.
rankings, I think it's at a 96.
It is my favorite personally, but I thought
Me
it was
too.
lower than that. I still think you would actually really like Crack in Time if you gave it another shot.
It might be a 94, but it's definitely higher
Crack in Time is a phenomenal game.
I do
not
like
just a
Crack in
Ratchet,
Time.
not just a Ratchet game. Because I think you mentioned a while back you didn't actually complete it. I don't know if that's changed.
I've
since.
seen the whole story, and
Okay.
I know that the story is probably the best the franchise ever had.
Yeah, but it's not just that. The gameplay is fantastic.
Well, I'll tell you the entire problem. It didn't have the Raritanium upgrade system.
Yeah. Okay.
Remember all that stuff I just said about how to get juice out of a Ratchet game?
Okay. Yeah. No, I see your point.
It was a huge problem, but only for me, and only because I was a developer on games that didn't have it.
Yeah. No. Okay. Fair enough.
So, yeah, it's
Fair
not.
enough.
It's totally not something I would expect any consumer to have a problem with. It's
Yeah.
just one of those weird things that happens because I make games. Like, it's harder to be surprised. Like, there's a lot of things like that, but it's worth it, But being a developer, you can't play games the same way as a consumer does.
I think that's the same for reviewers, for a different reason, obviously. Than
Yes.
a developer. But you can't, as a reviewer, I can't play the game annoyingly the same way anyone else will. I look for things, but I think in some ways that makes me better. Just
Yeah.
in the not in like an egotistical how I'm better than you, but just because I look for all the positives out of it.
It makes you a better reviewer for certain.
I see a lot of reviewers just literally everywhere who seek out the negatives, and I try and look for the good in things. Like
that's one of the things
Mario
I really like about your
Mario Tennis
channel.
Ultra Smash for the Wii U got horrible scores, like 4s all across the board, and it wasn't amazing. But I ended up giving it a 7, and my reasoning was I hadn't played another tennis game, so to me it felt fresh.
Oh, okay.
So like
that's interesting.
So like that's the thing. It's the difference. It's the opinion. Like it's not a game where I'm like, oh, I really feel like playing this constantly for the next week. But it's still a lot of fun. Good to come back to every once in a while. Probably have fun with your friends with it. And it was my first one, and visually it looked great. Like it didn't lack what others had to me because I hadn't played them, and that's different.
See, I'm really glad that you have that gratitude. I mean, that's what really got me watching your channel in the first place.
That's why I love talking to you, because you make me a better person.
Aww.
Just not just reviewer, a person, because I learn so much from your experiences and just without just your wisdom, because you've done so much with the industry and you understand it, how it works, and each time, even if it's a story that I've heard similar to one I've heard before, it's still something new that I'm taking from it, and it's still something that I can learn about just everything to do with the industry and how I should approach things. Like I have done that in the past, where I've written a review and I'm just like, that's not good enough. Like I'm being too negative, and yes, some games do they do deserve negativity when it's there, but at the same time, focus on the positives. Like
I think that's a good selling point you have for your channel, for sure, because it's not a common thing on the internet. Period.
And like that's the scale is flipped with Ultra Smash. If it was the other way around and I'd played all the tennis games, I guess now that I've had that experience of not knowing what the series is like, knowing it's been better before and now it's gotten worse, even though I'd be like, oh, it's gotten worse, say it was this Ratchet game, for example, say it was I know it's not, but say it was terrible, for example.
Okay.
Like, I've played the other games, the other games are better, but someone new coming into it, it's still a good game, you will enjoy it as much, but a returning fan might not. But I've still got that factor of, yes, you will enjoy it as a newcomer. That's
good that you can keep that perspective. I know, professional reviewers often have a hard time keeping that perspective.
Yeah, I've had a lot of
because they play so many
people
games, right? And they have to look at them critically.
Yeah, I've had a lot of good people teach me those kind of, I guess, morals. Because I used to do theatre work, and I had a director who was always very optimistic about seeking out fresh plays and stuff. Because he was a director of an art centre, so he
cool.
He had to bring talent to the art centre, and he brought people from London and stuff, and he had a really good sense of what was going to be good before watching it, so he knew what to watch, just based around rumours they'd heard and just various stuff. And he was a very interesting person to talk to, because he had a lot of very strong ideals, but he had reasons for them that you could understand.
Yeah,
and I know
it's always good when you can have people like that in your life.
Yeah, and one of the things he always does, and I think I've adapted it in some way. If he wanted to make a point, he exaggerated greatly to extend the reason why you should, exaggerating to make a point. You should.
Yeah, that's good. That's good
should,
teaching.
Yeah, you should do this because it will do this. But on the other hand, the world will get nuked if you don't do this. It's just you're exaggerating greatly, but it makes sense because it's the same point, and you're giving the worst case scenario out of it, and it's an interesting mentality to have.
Yeah, it's I've come to understand that being able to explain things that way actually isn't something most people do.
Yeah, no.
But it's just something I always assumed everybody did. So I've been trying to take advantage of it recently.
This sucks, by the way. This is
my
hard.
God.
Ah! Oh, it's not one hit kill. Oh, thank Christ. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's butt burn. But,
oh my God, that was terrible.
But you need to touch the floor, otherwise it accumulates until you touch the floor.
Yes, that's true. Ah. Oh man. But yeah, no. Thank you for being a constant inspiration.